One night, I get a phone call. This is like phone attached to the wall phones. A girl from our school, same grade, different class. Everyone knew this girl. She was popular. On this call, she said, like, hey, do you know that I really like you? I'm like, huh? Now, I am in shock, first of all, that you're telling me that you like me. This is like something new. So I'm like, huh? Like, kind of shocked, but also getting excited. Yeah, tomorrow during recess, I'm going to hang out with you. Recess happens. I'm by the swings on the lower level, which upper levels where they play football. And I'm not playing that day because I'm about to have an encounter. I'm about to have an encounter with a woman. And so I come back down, the bell rings, recess over, we get in line, and now she's toward the back of the line. And so I walk over there. I said, hi. And she's like, why are you talking to me? Ooh, I feel it. Oh. Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti, and I'm glad you've joined us. Hey, folks, today is the first episode of 2024. I'm going to share a story with you about a long time ago that happened in my life, and hopefully that story will connect to the bigger picture of what we're doing ever forward this year around working with educators in schools and really improving the education system for our schools. And so I'm not going to say much here. Let you hear the story. Please stay tuned toward the end for some announcements. And we look forward to seeing you in 2024 at one of our online, virtual, local community events. But please, we look forward to you being a part of the journey with us. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. My name's Ashanti, and I'm going to tell you a story about getting played. Now, this is before I was even worried about girls or relationships. I was in elementary school, probably fifth grade, at a school in Oakland Hills called Grass Valley. It's a fancy school in the fancy part of town. I came from the heartland, the flatlands of Oakland, up to this fancy school on the bus every morning and down the hill on the way back home. From the apartments to the houses, that you can tell the difference of where the environment is. But what I remember is most prominently from those years of being up in the hills was that just, the kids, they kind of treated you different. They knew that you didn't live up there. They all knew each other from, that elementary school all the way through. I'm new, and I'm coming up on the bus every morning. So one night, I get a phone call. This is like phone attached to the wall phones, right? This is like you got to be near the wall where the phone is attached to the wall. Now you may have a long cord that kind of winds up, coils up. But I didn't get many phone calls. I only had like one or two friends that I would ever call ever. But, phone calls are not never necessarily that long. But this night in particular, I get a call. My mom says, the phone for you is a phone call for you. I'm like, huh? For me? Like, who's calling me? And it was a girl from our school, same grade, different class. Everyone knew this girl. I don't remember her name, but I do remember, she was popular. Now, on this call, she said, like, hey, do you know that I really like you? I'm like, huh? Now, imagine you're, let me see, I was say fourth grade, fifth grade. So say I was 9 or 10. Now, I am in shock, first of all, that you're telling me that you like me because we're not even in the same class. How do you know me? We never talk. I see you. Like, I can't miss you. But how do you know me? And she's like, "Oh no, I've been watching you. I've been doing, this is etched in my brain the words she was saying to me because I had never felt this kind of emotion before. Now I'm into wrestling. I watch wrestling on Saturday mornings. I'm a big brother. I got two siblings. I'm a caretaker. I make breakfast for my siblings. I cook dinner for them, help them with their homework. Like I'm a domesticated little boy, right? So this is like something new. So I'm like, huh? Like kind of shocked, but also getting excited. She's like, yeah, tomorrow at lunch during recess, I'm gonna hang out with you. Because normally recess I just play football up on the upper level. Like I'm like, okay. And she's saying all these things that are like got my attention, right? And got my emotions tied up. I'm laying on the floor, like on the phone. I remember just being on the phone. We were on the phone for a little while, but I remember what was going to happen the next day is that I was supposed to come and see her while we line up, in lines. So we either line up in lines to go into the building. She's in that line over there. I'm in this line over here because we're in two different classes. And I can't sleep. Like that night, I'll just remember being like, oh my goodness, like I'm going to have like a girlfriend. Like what is going on? So I remember getting to school the next day. Like, I mean, we don't have I don't have fancy clothes, so I'm wearing. I think I probably got double starched my stuff. You know that spray starch you just spray. Double starched my clothes that day. Came to school like super juiced, and we're in line, and she's not saying anything to me. She hasn't said anything to me yet. I see her over there, and I'm like, am I supposed to go over to her? I didn't grow up with a father around, so I don't. I ain't got no game. I ain't got no riz. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Ashanti kid from the flatlands who was up in the hills with all these fancy kids. That's in my mind. That's how I'm seeing the differences that are happening. But I'm also like I'm more of a hothead sometimes than I am like anything else. Like, but I'm not. I don't start problems. I don't start trouble. And so she's over there, and so in the morning she doesn't say anything to me, and I'm like a little awkward. So I don't really know that I'm going to go over and say anything to her. So I just go to class. I said, well, maybe at recess. Maybe at recess is when I'll say something because I'm just like kind of confused. So recess happens. You run out to recess, everyone just scatters. I'm by the swings on the lower level, which upper levels where they play football, and I'm not playing that day because I'm about to have an encounter. I'm about to have an encounter with a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm prepared. So I'm hovering where I think I normally see her hang out at. I don't normally I see her around, but it's not like I'm like looking out for her before this call. But now I'm like, where is she? I nowhere to be found. Nowhere. I don't know where she. I go up to where they're playing football. I don't want to play because I'm supposed to be having this encounter. And so I come back down. The bell rings. Recess over. We get in line, and now she's toward the back of the line. And so I walk over there. And I was like, hey. I said, hi. And she's like, why are you talking to me? Ooh, I feel it. Oh, that's old stuff. It's old stuff. You over this, Ashanti? You over this, aren't you? Of course you are. There's one thing to be over it, and another thing to like kind of come to a place of like remembering like little feelings, like big feelings when you were little. Like most times I tell the story from a funny place. So I'm trying to tell it from a funny place because it was kind of funny, but I'm also, as I was telling you, as I remembering her look at me and say, why are you talking to me? That moment just came back. I think there's a deep connection between the work I get to do today, the work I have the pleasure to do today, working with young people, because I know what it's like to feel pain. Not only do I know what it's like to feel pain, like that it is close by. It's close by. Like I'll never forget kind of like the way she looked at me. I'm not seeing her face. I don't even know. I can't even really see her face. I see her entity. I see the meanness. Like, and then that's just the beginning of the where it all went all south, right? Because what had happened was a lot of people who were in line watching me, who are now laughing at me, were on the call. This is like right after three ways had kind of got started. Some of you like, what? This is like what year is this? This is like early 80s. Three ways it just started, right? So people could be on a call and you could have people on a call and a call and a call. Like they call them and then they call them and then they that was three ways, right? So there was a bunch of people on the phone who was hearing me have this conversation with her. Now I don't got no game, so I'm not doing no fancy talk. I'm just like being a nice guy. And I remember all of a sudden they were like, oh, you thought I liked you? And then the laughter and the embarrassment and the shame and the feeling of like, and I remember like feeling like there was no room in my community for embarrassment for too long. There was no room for feeling sad, for feeling a little bit of like there was a lot of room for anger. And so anger started coming toward the surface. Like then the sadness had to get tucked away real fast. Like I got a tear here today right now remembering it because inside the little boy who was standing there was sad. but there's no room for sadness. You definitely can't cry in front of this crowd. So I turned it all into anger, and I was like, beep, 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 right? And that's what it turned into. And everybody was on the call like, "Oh, you thought G liked you," and I remember just like it. I didn't get suspended that day. Thank goodness, right? I didn't get suspended that day. I didn't fight that day. I think I was still the level of embarrassment towards the level of anger. That anger didn't have a lot of room to come through, but I know I was cussing a lot. I was cussing at people like F this, F that, F you, blah blah blah. Now I don't know if I ever said F you to her. I think I know who put her up to it. Her cousin, who I had probably gotten suspended with several times for fighting. But anyway, all that to say, you know, the stories that I'm thinking of, the stories that I kind of go back to are these monumental moments of journey of the life. Elementary school was a challenging time. Me being in a different school, me trying to fit in, me trying to just be liked. I think everybody wants to be liked. What happens when you don't, you're in a new place that people don't know you or don't get you or you don't have the coolest stuff, and so therefore they know that you're, poor. It's one thing to be in a city of Oakland. Not everyone is poor in Oakland. I mean, there's people who can live in the hills in Oakland, and fancy, nice houses, and people who don't. There's a difference there. There's been a difference before I went to Grass Valley, but I know that was a big part of my journey. And so when I go into schools and I talk to students and I see 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds make masks and they talk about sadness and they talk about fear and they talk about worry, I get it. I'm trying to see if there's a mask here of a younger person because we have a lot of them. Here's one. Here's one that we picked up from I think Starbucks, from one of our pop-ups. The front says fun, funny, and kind. It's the front of the mask. This is a not 8-year-old boy, third grade, maybe fourth, depending on the age. And the back of the mask, sad, mad, unhappy. See that? Man, I know what that's like. So it's not that because I make a bunch of masks with people, it's one thing because I ask a lot of questions because I don't know who this boy is, but I do know that 8-year-old boy understands what it's like to want to have fun and be funny and be kind on the outside, but on the back of the mask, the sad, mad, unhappy, those are the things it doesn't get to talk about. I get it. That's why I know when we do the work with Ever Forward, how the Ever Forward Club started, I recognize that it was a journey of me wishing that I had a space like that to talk about what was going on in a healthy way. Where I wasn't always trying to pretend that everything was fine, everything was good, everything was I'm fine, right? Everything. And so this journey of the mask movement has been a journey of creating the solutions that I think are so important today. It's so critical that what we're doing right now in the Ever Forward Club, that what we're doing is giving space and room for us to talk about what's happening behind that mask. Because if we don't, we're going to deal with it in other ways. Me fighting and getting suspended over and over again wasn't because I was looking for trouble. It was because I had all this emotional stuff that was going on that I had no room for. And in my community, getting angry was enough power, prestige, platform, position that you could totally ignore the fact that you were dealing with sadness and fear on the inside. You just showed up enough anger on the outside and you get mad enough and you fight enough, then hey, people may still try and mess with you, but they're gonna know that you ain't gonna back down. Now they also knew your buttons. And it's what I tell young people. I said, be careful who you let know your buttons. I told people what my buttons were. Talk about my daddy. Here, I'll show you this shoulder. Talk about my daddy. There's right there. See, a lot of your mama jokes happen in elementary school. I didn't care about your mama jokes because my mama was at home. I was smart enough to know that whatever you said was a lie. But see, if you talk about my daddy, then we're going to have a problem. Most elementary students are, if they're all the ones who think they're tough too, are going to test you and they'll test you. They'll be like, your daddy, blah, blah, blah. And then bloop, there we go. There's a fight. I would give them the formula for me. And what I recognized that I was doing is I was actually giving them power over me. I was giving them power to know how to set me off to the place where I was uncontrollable and I would do something that was not going to be healthy. That's part of the work too. And so when I talk to young people and I know they're struggling and they're going through whatever, I'm like, tell me about yourself. What's up with you? What's new? What have you been up to? What's causing some of the now? This is if let's say that a parent introduces me because their parent heard about the program and they want them either in the Black Boys Circle or they want them in the program in some other way. Like I got to understand who they are and what they're about. Do they understand how they show up? Do they understand what they do? Do they have words for it? Maybe they don't have words for it. But to be able to name off some of the things that do show up is a way for me to just say, "Hey, I hear that you're a good kid, but you get in trouble in school a lot. What? Tell me about that." And for them to like, so, oh, well, they pick on me about what? Tell me about what? And then those conversations they have to understand that, oh wow, there's so much more. Okay, I see what's going on. I remember situations like that. I can understand. I can empathize with what you're going through. You've learned that this is the way to solve all the problems. I make everybody laugh. I'm a clown in class. I'm a goof off. I just play silly, funny games all the time because I've learned that making people happy is the way that I can keep people from feeling sad because everyone around me in my life is oftentimes not happy. Or maybe I'm causing problems and I'm calling out people and I'm making fun of people because the last thing I want people to do is make fun of me. So I need to be first. I need to point out all the flaws in everybody around me so that no one ever points out mine because they don't have room because I'm already pointing out theirs first. It's just patterns. And little kids who pick up those patterns become adults who do those patterns. I mean, we can probably name a lot of people in the adult world who like to pick on people, who like to make fun of people, who like to call people names, who are just unkind. And you wonder what little kid is in there that just was hurt, so hurt. It's one thing to be me tell the story and tell you that there was some pain in there of that situation, but I didn't become a person who then began hurting people like that. That wasn't something that happened to me. It was more of like I wish that. Well, actually, I'm actually trying to name that a better way. I did begin fighting a lot, so maybe I did take it out on other people. Maybe I did subconsciously take it out on other people, but I thought I was fighting because of they they did something in the football game or they did this to me or whatever. But it would always probably be more than probably what it deserved. There's probably more aggression coming out. And this work that we do with educators and giving educators tools to support students is because I know what it's like to be a kid who's picked on. Now, I didn't get bullied in elementary school because I was a fighter. When I got to middle school is when bullying started. And so because I became to be like, there's a lot of bigger, way bigger kids here than me. And like this is a whole new world. And so I came back down to the heartland of Oakland. I went from the Oakland Hills to like Oakland Heartland, Calvin Simmons Junior High. That's a whole different level of fighting there. So I began to get more nervous about fighting because I'm like, uh-oh, this is a bunch of different folks. And that bullying started because I just wasn't willing to deal with the pain of pushing back. So when students come to me and they know that they've dealing with bullying or I've heard about it or they describe it when I was an administrator or a teacher, I take it serious because most of the bullying happens in the dark. It happens in the lunch line. It happens on the bus. It happens in places where other people don't really see. Some people may witness it or see it or have noticed it, but they don't say anything because they're afraid it's going to happen to them. So most people are just like ignoring it. Our schools education deserves to be a place where kids can learn. They need to learn more than math and arithmetic and science and those things. They need to learn how to communicate and how to be with each other. And guess what? Sometimes it's hard. If you've watched your parents, all they do is do certain behaviors, you are going to do what you live. They're going to be those people. Sometimes you're actually, when you meet kids' parents, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Oh, I get it. I see where this comes from. Sometimes you get them and you're like, this is interesting. Why are you? Because sometimes you don't know where it comes from. Like there's a one thing to be like, you see where it comes from, and another thing to be like, well, okay, I don't know where it comes from. And I think that as an educator, we're giving a certain amount of information. I get a kid in my class, I've never met him before, or maybe I've seen him around campus, but now I'm there to support them. And I have to support them through all the stuff that that kid is going through. And educators over and over again miss the mark because they believe that some kid cares how much you know about the subject you're teaching. Now, some kids do. Some kids, they are nerded out on the fact that you love science and history and so and math. So they want to ask you math questions when they walk in on Monday morning. And I'm like, hey kid, I'm trying to get ready for class. I don't really think about math all day, all night. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like math. I'm preparing my lessons, but I don't really want to have a conversation about a math topic necessarily. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not that. But that's one type of kid. Another kid, no matter what you do to try and get to talk about math, they're going to bring up another subject. Be like, hey, we're working on parabolas. And they're like, oh, I went to Disneyland and I got on this ride. And you're like, okay, we're getting close. No, you know what? I had a big old drumstick. Like, and then the conversation goes somewhere. You're like, man, I thought you were going to talk about a roller coaster so we could talk about math. What? I'm telling you about how much fun I had. And so imagine in the same class, you can have kids who are like curious and want to talk to you about these subjects, and some who are like, hey, I'm just here for lunch. I'm just here for entertainment. I'm just here to make people laugh. I'm just here for because they make me come here. And our schools have to be a better place of learning. I have a big vision of how we're going to transform schools. It's going to happen one conversation at a time. It's going to have one system at a time of recognizing that our kids are more than we can see, and we got to support all of them. And that means not just say on our websites and our fancy mission statement. You go to every mission statement in the U.S. Pick every big city. Pick a random school in that big city. I can almost guarantee you their mission statement is going to say something like whole child learning, developing kids inside and outside the classroom. Well, you can pull it, do an example. I don't have time to make it up right now, but I imagine we could just make it up. Pick up Washington High School or anywhere in the USA and go to their mission statement. You're gonna hear the same words over and over regurgitated. And when you walk on that campus Monday morning, I imagine that they won't all match up to what the mission says. And we have work to do about that. We got work. And so take that as where we're going this year. 2024, we are going to be pushing more towards this vision of transforming how our students interact with schools and how our schools interact with students. And we're going to have to do it one student at a time, one mask at a time. Every one of these that get made as a way of helping understand, helping teachers understand, and helping students understand that, hey, we're all human here. I'm adult. I got a job. I'm here to do a job, but I'm also human. I have human feelings. I have human dreams. And when we come to this building, and if I become the authority figure and you become the learner only, then we become imbalanced in our connection. Yes, I am an adult. I have a job here. I'm responsible for more than 30 or 25 of you, how many ever there in my room. But I also have responsibility to let you see that I'm a human. That I see you as more than just a student of a subject. I see you as a person who can connect. That's what it's about. I see you as a person who may have feelings, who maybe you didn't just go home last night and just got to do homework only because maybe I would think as a teacher, you don't have a job. I know some teachers who don't like their job. Sadly, I think it's time to make a move if you don't really like it. If it's not feeding your soul, that you got a place to be, that you have a role and a responsibility, then maybe it's not the right work for you. But here's what I'm clear of. When I left the classroom, I left because I wanted to do something bigger. That what I could do with 30 students at a time, 25, 30, 35 at a time, that was only short-lived. That I had a bigger vision for how I was going to impact education, and it was going to happen from the outside in. Maybe I have to go back in and do some deeper work, but I have asked thousands and thousands of students from North Carolina to New York to Washington State to California, San Diego, Bay Area, Oakland, like on all in between, and people around the world to really share your mask. And what we continue to learn over and over again is that our young people are carrying it. They're carrying it as best they can in the most positive way they can so that it doesn't affect them too much, but it's coming out. So here's the 2024 to doing work with more of our education platforms, with doing more work with what's happening in the Ever Forward Club. You will see this year we have our 20th anniversary coming up, May, the Memorial Day weekend. That's our 20th anniversary celebration. It's a 20th annual 5K challenge. This year will be a 5K. We will be inviting people around the world, around the country to take the challenge, do the challenge in their own communities around the world to be participating. We will be having a celebration here in the Bay Area, inviting all of our alumni to come back and be a part of the festivities for that day as we celebrate 20 years of doing this work. I shared you a story of when I was in the 4th or 5th grade. That's a long time ago to where we are now, but it's rooted in the deep heart of what I have for this, of the deep heart I have for this work. If you know my story at all, you know that I was never planning to be a teacher. I graduated as an engineer. I wanted to make big money and be rich. And teaching called me. And I'm clear today more than ever that this is the work that I'm supposed to be doing. This is the work that gets me excited. Like this is the work that I could talk about for hours and hours and hours. And I think that sometimes in the work of trying to like share the work out with the world, I'm trying to create things in bite-sized pieces that people can understand. And the work is different. And so we're going to be having some conversations with people in this podcast about education. We're going to have a couple of educators that'll be our, resident educators that we're talking to about this work and what we're learning and what we're seeing in some of these masks from these schools. That's what's about to happen. The Masks, Emotions, and Math project, I think, is going to absolutely transform how schools interact with students and how students share with the adults what they're feeling and experiencing. Students are going to take lead on these. There'll be some adults helping, but we have just launched our first pilot that just happened in December. We have another pilot happening in the Boys Club of New York. I'll be in New York next week or in 2 weeks launching the project there, and it is ready to do something amazing. The seeds that have been planted from so far back in my own life, the seeds that we've been planting in the Million Mask movement since we first started the Ever Forward Club back in 2004 to the Million Mask movement kicking off 2016-ish after the documentary. This is the next chapter of this work. And so we invite you to be a part of it. We invite you to make a mask. We invite you to take your few minutes. We're asking you to take a few minutes to go to the website, make a mask, and share it with somebody. Maybe you share it anonymously first. And as you ponder what you just did and you ponder the other masks that you've seen in the gallery and you recognize, wow, there's other people just like me who are going through similar things. So maybe the people in my life who actually say they care about me, who I say I care about, maybe they will be willing to hear me as well. That is what we need to do. That's the work. So I'll stop there. This is where we're going to close this first episode of 2024, the first solo episode. We may have more solo episodes this year. Today was me just kind of sharing a story with you and really just sharing what's coming up. We hope that you will continue to be a part of this movement with us. And as we work on this project and we work on these visions and these dreams, we vision that the South by Southwest, where we will be in March, that if you know anybody who's going to be there, you connect them with us. Have them come find our booth. Have them come be a part of our journey. We're doing a live podcast there with some young men. So we're excited about that coming up too. So there's a lot happening over these next 6 months. We hope that you will be a part of it. If you haven't yet made a mask, we invite you to do that soon. The website will be updated in the next couple of months before we go to South by Southwest. So there'll be some updates happening. We invite you to do it now. Be a part of it now before it moves into the next chapter of its work. Millionmask.org. That's millionmask.org. You can make a mask there anonymously. And we hope that you will share it with somebody. Share this episode with somebody. You have a middle school, elementary school story that you want to share. Please send us a message and let us know how we can continue making these conversations that matter and that help to alleviate and improve, not alleviate the stress, but improve the relationships that's happening on our campuses around here in California, around the West Coast, around the United States, and around the world. Thank you, folks, for being a part of this journey with us. We'll see you soon. Bye now. Cheers. Taking Off the Mask podcast is produced by Ryan Louie and graphics by Kelly Wong. Guests are managed by Dan Paloma, and the podcast is edited by Samuel Matingo. We'd like to thank everyone who's been a part of the creation of this podcast, and for every guest that has been a part of the show, you are now a part of the Taking Off the Mask family. The Taking Off the Mask podcast is brought to you by the Ever Forward Club, and if you like what you've heard today, please subscribe, write a 5-star review, and share this with someone. We look forward to having more conversations that matter. And please remember, there is more to you than anybody can see by just looking at you.